like 7 days.
So, so I actually wasn't here most of the 7 days because
Oh, really?
I was away. Yeah, I went to visit my parents last week. So I escaped to Georgia for most of last week. So yeah, I got back on Sunday night.
I don't think
Yeah.
you, I don't think you could have picked a more ideal time to leave New York. Like
Yeah, I
legitimately
mean,
a more
well,
ideal time.
yeah. I also kind of like avoided the Labor Day traffic, as in left before the weekend and came back before the end of the long
That's
weekend,
smart.
right? So I did my best to avoid that
Oh my.
all that mess. Yeah.
See, like smart man. It is funny. I think like I woke up to. I feel like if you wouldn't know, like I'm pretty sure you were probably gonna be experiencing the same thing. I woke up to about four texts from like family members, like, "Hey, are you good?" On Friday
Like,
after
are you
the
okay? Oh, like
what is
about
it?
the yeah, about like the hurricane.
Yeah, it was because like I didn't even realize because I was streaming and then slept through it. Like it was just like I guess it was just rain. Like I didn't think too much of it, and then I
Hmm.
woke up to like four texts from family members like, "Yeah, are you okay? Is your apartment okay? Are you good? Like what's up?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Then I looked on Twitter and saw that like New York got set on fire. Well, kind of
Yeah,
opposite, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. There was a lot going on.
Ugh. But well, glad everyone's okay.
Yeah.
Ugh. But yeah, welcome, sir. So typically we like to go on, I guess, conversations about things other than keyboards when we have keyboard guests on. But I always start with because out of like pure curiosity, how did you like get in the keyboard hobby?
Um, I guess kind of twofold for an answer. I I mean, well, I got exposed to mechanical keyboards quite early on, but I would say that my first bigger exposure to keyboards was through one of my college friends. So I majored in physics and electrical engineering, and so I had friends who were, big nerds, and at least one of them was into sort of like restoring older computer parts and like going to like e-recycling and like scavenging stuff and checking out stuff like that. And then but he also happened to be in the mechanical keyboards community, but more so for like switch testing and like like those grab bags, like the keycap grab
Yeah,
bags, like you would trade those too, like back when there was a smaller community. Like this was, I'm talking like 2015ish, maybe 2014, 2015ish. And then that was my kind of like first exposure to the fact that the community like existed. But I got more exposed to the keyboard hobby in late 2016. I was working in the DC area, and I actually was interviewing at the same time for schools, really, because I was going to attend school like in 2017, right? For like I was applying for school then, and
sure.
so I was in the interview trail, and on the interview trail I met a guy who happened to also be like in my area, in Washington D.C. And so like we became close, and he one day told me like, hey, like let's hang out, and he said like, oh, hey, there's this mechanical keyboards meetup happening like nearby. I think it was at Georgetown University. I actually remember the date. It was like December 3rd, I think, 2016, at Georgetown. It was like the first mechanical keyboards meetup in the DC area, and he was like, "Hey, like, want to go to this? Like, it sounds pretty cool. I've I've kind of seen this keyword stuff before," and I was like, "Yeah, sure. Like, why not? Like, let's go check it out." And so I went, and kind of really liked it. Right. Really enjoyed what I saw there. Like all the stuff that I tried. It was not a big meetup. I would say like there were maybe like 30 people tops, maybe 40, I don't know. Like people came and went, but there are people who like came with a lot of keyboards, and I got to try like Topre, MX Clears, like like looped MX Clears, like MX Blacks. Like back then Zelios were the rage back then, so a lot of Zelios and Gadron stuff. But yeah, like I got to try like custom mechanical keyboard stuff back then. Saw my first like back then like the cooler key sets were like GMK Carbon, SA Pulse, um,
GMK Carbon's so
DSA
cool. It's literally in TV
DSA
shows now.
like DSA Granite, um, that kind of stuff, right? That was the cool stuff back then, and I was like, oh, like I love this. Like it's like it looks cool, it looks awesome, it feels great. I was like, yeah, like I work on my in front of my computer, like 60 to 80 hours a week. Why should I not? Why should I not get a keyboard? And so that's kind of how I got into it. I pretty much came back home that same day from the meetup, and I purchased a Nova Touch and an HHKB on the same night because I fell in love with Toper first, and I was like, I really want to try this Toper thing. And then later on, I got like custom MX boards. Like that was actually like later on in time. I actually was I stuck with Toper for a little bit, and then got into the MX stuff later on because I was like, oh, like keycap options are in MX anyway, so I want to try that out too.
Do you remember your first
Yeah.
board, like your first like custom build?
My first few keyboards that I had that were not custom were I had a Cooler Master Quickfire like Ultimate, I think. Quickfire, yeah, something like that. It was like one of those full size with MX Brown, super nice actually, really smooth switches actually. So I already liked tactile switches back then. And then I had a Tata 68 that my friend from college, the first friend I mentioned earlier, his name is Steve. He had given me a Tata 68 with Gateron clears, which they're super light, right? But it was like my first exposure to linears that were not like the usual MX Red or MX Black at the time. So I was like, oh, like that's cool, like smooth, like relatively smooth but extremely light linears. And then my first big custom was a Duck Octagon V1. Yeah, that was my first big custom keyboard.
Oh wow.
And then I got other stuff to try out. Like I got a white box at some point to try out like 65% layout. I already had an HKB, so I already knew what 60% an HKB layout was like, which took me some time to get used to, but I actually really love HKB layout. I pretty much like right now my favorite layouts are TKL and 60% in general, both for aesthetic and function. And then occasionally I pretty much can use anything between like 60 to full size, but I prefer to use TKL and 60% now. But yeah, those were my first few keyboards. I had like a Vermillo keyboard at one point, KVD 75, like the first one that ever came out. It was the first version. They had like different colors, and the KVD 75 V1 was kind of big when KVD fans just had started. Like they started maybe like less than a year after I had gotten into the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was kind of like, oh, there's this new vendor called KVD fans, like, and they're like coming out with these new keyboard kits that are only like $150. Um, it sounds like a pretty good deal compared to buying like a Korean custom that's like 350 to 450. So I checked those out too. But yeah, like my big first custom was like the big first jump I did was getting a Duck Octagon V1, which is like a Korean custom keyboard. Although it's like a tray mount, but 75%. But yeah, and that was like I got it off like Mech Market for like five something, which was like already built with Gateron blacks and like all that stuff. But yeah, that was like my first big endeavor into like MX customs.
I think well, it's funny like you said, KVD 75 V2 was my first board. It's like the one like I feel like I can never bring myself to get rid of. I've
Yeah,
also
so I
like
actually still have my Duck Octagon. It's still over there. I've rebuilt it a few times already. I actually even like had a PCB made for it because the original PCB is pretty old, and also actually like eventually kind of like had some issues. Um, but yeah, I eventually had a PCB made for it like with Bootmapper client and all that stuff. Which Bootmapper client was like the thing to use if you know without with when QMK was still just like command line stuff. um no via definitely has spoiled us all. um but yeah,
Via
Bootmapper
was
was like
made.
the cool and easy. I mean, well, Via is basically like the Bootmapper client of QMK, and
Yeah.
so yeah.
It
Yeah,
literally
yeah. So
Via was made for people like me who just like cannot get QMK right. I
yeah,
always
it took
find
me
a
a
way to
little
mess
time to
up
get
on
used to that.
QMK. I
Yeah.
like always find a way to mess up on QMK. It's brutal.
Hmm.
Uh, that's funny that it's bringing up KBD. I did so much like I'd say like intensive research into like when I first got into the hobby because I'm like, why are all these so expensive? I'm like, KBD fans looks good. I was like on Reddit. I'm like, is this website legit? And they're like, yeah, you're good. Don't worry, KBD fans are
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Because it's like all these like new. It was like an entirely new like world to me. I've always like I've talked about it before, but it was like I got into like mechanical. Like I got interested in like art, like RMK and stuff. Probably like freshman year of college, like 2013. But like I didn't understand anything. I just knew that they were cool keyboards. And then
yeah. Hmm.
like I think like as time went on, I learned I'm like, oh, you can build custom ones. I'm like, this is too much money and too much like brain power for me to even like begin to like go into. And then I think me
Yeah.
along with like probably like half of the community now is like during quarantine, everyone's like, oh, let's get into keyboards. And here we are. And
Yeah,
here we
yeah. I
are.
mean, it's funny because I mean, it's like the mentality when you come into anything related to tech, right? Actually, it's kind of like there's a bit of due diligence to do when you like have to read through reviews. People like talk about like what's the best thing, kind of like the cookie cutter formula for it. And you like read the reviews and reputation and like all that stuff. But in the custom keyword scene, it's kind of a bit of a word of mouth, right?
And
Sort of thing where like there isn't necessarily like at least well back when they started there was no like authority per se on oh this is the thing to buy, right? Like there was no Teja types, right? um like that kind of stuff. And so um and yeah, it was interesting to see like the community grow out of that, where like it was more so like oh just try it out and see for yourself, and then if you like it you can, or if you don't actually, you can write about it and post it on Reddit and say like oh I bought these new things and this is my review of it, but take it with a grain of salt because I might be the only one who has done this or something like that. But even when I joined the community though, it was actually expanding quite a bit. So like I can't say I was like super early, although at this point in time it like feels like so long ago, and like the community has well really changed quite a lot.
it's been
Um,
5 years. Yeah, do I have that math right?
yeah, like 4.5. Yeah, I mean we're going towards 5 years in 3 months. So yeah, so it's kind of crazy to think about it that way. That I've already been in this hobby for like half a decade. Yeah.
I'll ask you because it's really only like you. At least like people I've had on here, it's like you, Kimchi, and JoJo, were like the ones that have been here for at least like longer than like 3 4 years. It seems like.
Hmm.
But is there like any like monumental moments that you remember you're like in keyboards where you're just like holy shit?
Mm, let me think. Like moments in
Like I know
keyboards, like
for
specific
example,
events in keyboards. I remember waking up in January of 2017. So this was like just a month in to the hobby. And back then there were a few like very very expensive key sets in on Mech Market. Actually, GMK 9009 round one was pretty expensive. GMK Ski Data was pretty expensive, but GMK sets were not all the rage back then. There were also SA sets that were very expensive. There's like SA Retro, SA Calm Depths was pretty rare. SA Penumbra had a bit of history and drama and well more so like fulfillment issues, and but at the same time it was a very highly desirable set. um would sell for anywhere between 500 to 800 US dollars for the set, with a variable number of kits. Same for Calm Depths. And I remember when Originative Co announced the SA Penumbra rerun kit like on a random, I think it was like a Saturday morning. I like woke up and someone like pinged me saying like, "Hey dude, like Originative just put up a pre-order for SA Penumbra, like right now for like $250 or whatever." Like, it was like an all-in-one kind of kit,
yeah.
and I was like, "Holy crap!" And so I remember like that kind of stuff. Like seeing reruns of specific sets was kind of a big deal, because normally sets were not rerun. Sets were normally always made to be a one-time thing. Actually, I personally think that if you like there's specific people who like really focus on the aspect of collecting, and I know for a fact that, like, for example, Works like hasn't run some keycaps because it's like there's like this collector kind of scene going on there. But other than that, like some people like are reluctant to see reruns. And so when things rerun, it's kind of exciting. But nowadays, like you can expect a lot of the big sets rerun every year, like Modern Doge, 9009, right? Um,
I feel like we're seeing a
whatever
lot
it
of
is.
those. I feel like we're
Yeah,
in like the
like you
last
might you
year.
might see like you might see like Olivia rerun again soon. I mean, like what Burgundy ran 3 times. Like all the big sets are going to run again at some point. Like
I mean, like this year
Bingsu,
alone. Yeah,
you name it, right? Like there's a lot of round twos and round threes and so on. So for Bento and Serica, Analog Dreams, Taro, like there's a lot, right? Carbon, right? Um, Terminal. I mean, there's so many. Uh, but yeah, I think like seeing reruns back then was like a big thing. What else
especially
like
because I
was
feel
like a
like so many of those
huge
sets, like
news?
I feel like
Oh,
someone.
Crytox, like the Tribosis line that was first made through Krelbit, SwitchMod.net, and Miller Stevenson. It was a contract through Miller Stevenson, is a company that makes Crytox and products, right? And they made Tribosis is a separate line of products that they have. It's basically essentially Crytox, but it's actually a separate line of products under a separate contract. Um, and it was done through Binge of Hungerworks Studio, an artisan maker, and Krelbit of Switchmod. And when they first came out with Tribosis 3204, which was like the new big thing, it was kind of huge because it was marketed as a lube that was not mixed. First of all, back then a lot of people would mix, what people would say geek hackers lube, right? Or like people call it different things. People call it Crytox thin or Crytox thick. There were like basically different mixes where people would mix 200 series Crytox and 100 series oil Crytox to make a blend, like let's say like 7-3 or whatever it is, 1-1, you know, and they would make blends of Crytox. And the problem with those blends of Crytox was they would separate over time. So you apply it, it's all good, but maybe like in 6 months, you know, you open your switch up because you desolder your switches or something, and you would see like a little of oil like pulled down at the bottom and not much on your stem. So like you kind of feel like the loop kind of like isn't working anymore because it's just like pulled down to the bottom of the switch. And when Tribose first came out, I was like, oh, it's very adhesive. Like it adheres really well to the surfaces. It's stable. Like it has basically an indefinite shelf time, shelf life, and it's like the pricing was also like pretty good because back then those Crytox mixes would be sold for like $8 to $10 a vial, right? Which isn't cheap. I mean, you right now we say like, oh yeah, like $8 for 5 millimeters of Crytox or whatever, or three
A
millimeters
vial,
of
a vial is
Crytox or
probably
whatever,
like two, like 1 to 2 maybe. I'm assuming,
right?
but
It's expensive, right? I mean, like
yeah.
you think like, oh yeah, like it is expensive, right? It's an expensive product, but back then like these mixes also like were hand mixed, like someone was mixing these like in their garage or whatever, right? And then selling them like dividing it up and selling it in vials. And now that there was a new product that could be relatively mass produced, it was a kind of big deal. So and like there was like a lot of vendors involved in this, and so that was pretty big. There are a few other big events I would say, like if you want to maybe say dramatic events, um there was a box gate drama where when box switches were discovered to have slightly thicker stems, and they were breaking keycap sets, specifically cherry like GMK sets, because they're slightly thicker, and like people were like, "Do we need to shave the stem? What do we do?" Like I've been using my box switches on my like with my GMK set for like the past 6 months. Like what the heck? I took it off and like all the keycaps were like just flying out, and that was kind of big. Stealios, yeah, Stealios
More
was a big drop.
Stealios.
Was so the current um, the current popular switch manufacturer that we know as Duroc, slash JWIC slash JWK. Um, they're derived from the people who allegedly stole molds for from Gateron for Zelio switches
Okay.
um, to make T1s. So T1s were a clone of
Huh.
Zelios, and there was a lot of drama on the Mechanical Keyboards Reddit about KBD fans basically making this product named T1s that were essentially a clone of Zelio switches. And there was this whole like legal mess, people pointing fingers at KOD fans, and some people pointing fingers at each other, and there was this whole like translation barrier here and there, and basically though it boiled down to these individuals who basically stole molds and went off and made their own switches basically, and these same individuals or likely related individuals have made well have made themselves quite the successful business out of it, where we now have dozens of variations in color and type and whatever plastic blends and you name it, out of um, technically basically intellectual property that's somebody else, which ironically is the same thing as Gateron being cherry clones, right? So yeah, it's
So
like the Switch,
interesting. I've never even heard
Switch
of this.
the Switch game is this game of Duck Duck Goose where people essentially are chasing each other for the it's like the Krabby Patty formula. Um, yeah, so people are chasing each other for like the cookie cutter formula for Switches, to basically make as many variations as they can, and selling them off to people who want these things, right? Which is most of the people out there. It's because the reality is, I mean, I personally have a few qualms about clones. People, I think, know my opinion about them in general. I personally think the Switch thing, I've kind of just like swept it under the rug a little bit. But for example, like when it comes to like other clones, like more blatant clones like HK Gaming or ETD, I have very adamant views about it.
I think most of us would.
Um, right? But I'm like losing my train of thought for a second. Hold up. Yeah. So yeah. But I do think that there is a lot in this community about like what how much intellectual property can we actually protect, and like that there's basically always customers. There's always a segment of the customer base who's going to say, why should I pay X amount that is greater than Y that this other maker is producing at a cheaper price, right? It's like I would of course pay cheaper for something that looks somewhat similar than pay X for whatever they call themselves to be the original, right? That's the argument for any kind of look-alike or clone products, right?
Sure.
Is that you as a customer, you're selfish. You want to pay less. You don't want to pay more. The product looks about the same, or it's not quite the same, but it looks the same to you. It's
It's
good enough
close
to you.
enough. It's close
Yeah,
enough.
it scratches the itch, right? So you go for that. But on behalf of the people who are involved, like on the vendor level, or even on the design level, right? It's a completely different story. So there's a bit of that. Um, so yeah, I think like it seems to vary a lot in like what kind of sector of the hobby that's being that's happening. It seems like for like some mass produced goods, people kind of tend to be okay with it. And when it comes to more handmade or maybe more involved processes where it's more so of a refined a refined product where there has been a lot of like mm, human input per se, people get more defensive because they stand in solidarity of a particular designer or uh they kind of like respect the creative rights of that particular maker, right? Which I think
Sure.
is totally fair, and I think is probably the ethically correct thing to do, right? But yeah, there's been drama like that in the hobby for a long time. Um, like especially like switches and mass-produced goods, keycap sets. Um, yeah,
It's just it's and it's like it's so tough to like I feel like even like get into it to like because you can like preach to the choir as much as you want, but then there are people who just don't seem to understand. Like it's like a lot of kids, there's like a lot of younger people in the hobby, and even like not so much younger people in the hobby. Like, I've seen like people our age who just like can't even wrap their minds around like why it is an issue with like buying and handling clones and going into that. But it's like I feel like I've seen even clones like popping up more so on Mech Market recently. I've been like noticing like I'll see people like PBT Mizu. I'm like PBT
yeah.
like I've been like noticing a lot more. It's like what do you even like? And, like at a certain point like what can we do? And it's just I don't know. I feel like it's been talked
Well,
about so much over these last couple couple months.
I think it's more so that people like to wash their hands off things. Mech market mods certainly don't want to regulate it because they oh well, at least head moderation believes in laissez-faire, where it's basically a free market, and it's like, why should we regulate counterfeit or whatever when there's basically going to be more people bitching about it, and we don't want to deal with that, right? So there's that. Um, of course, like there's people who are like, oh, but you should put a rule that like these people need to disclose that there's like a product that's like apparently a clone of this other one, but it's like due diligence to for people to do the research and know about it. Yada yada. Point is, people don't want to be involved in a mess that they're not necessarily directly like related to, and so they prefer to wash their hands off it. And I think that's why a lot of that kind of like indifference tends to happen in this community, and it really happens in any market, and in any place where there is creative processes happening. Um, so yeah, I think it's like I personally find the hobby, at least for me, to be a very individual thing. Um, so like I am okay believing like what seems correct to me, right?
Sure.
And like the opinions of other people don't quite affect or don't quite change that much with respect to what I think, like my frame of reference. But I would say like mm, I would say like like I try to inform myself with respect to like what other people think or what other people have to contribute to a conversation, if it if it is based on some sort of like actual evidence, right? So or like if it's something that they've tried or seen for themselves or have a taste of, or have maybe even like kind of like the inside scoop. Sometimes it's interesting to see that um behind the scenes, to understand what's going on. Um, but in the end, I think it's just like, yeah, each person kind of has their own view on this, and they tend to just stick with that.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people like aren't in like the same positions that like the keyboards aren't everyone's like number one thing. Like not something like I feel like people are like incredibly like they're more casual to where they just do not care also, which is fair, I suppose. Like they're just in this to get their board, make it look pretty, and dip. They're not here to influence or like try to make a change. But Snoop Dogg did ask. I'm actually curious if you have an answer for this, but because I can't see this happening. But do you think we'll ever see a shift away from MX STEM to something better and switching up companies who hold the power? I
Mm,
feel like
I
I
think
feel like
I think by sheer number, probably not for a while. Just because there's so much MX out there. Um, and it's also hard to shift like the paradigm on like what was considered to be like popular for a long time. So probably not. And also people like to have the backwards compatibility to things. Like it's not gonna be like, let's compare it to like game consoles, right? It's not gonna be like the Wii and the GameCube, let's say. where the GameCube has those little discs, but no other console does afterwards, right? I don't think that's gonna be the case here, despite the popularity of the GameCube, right? Um, but the GameCube is a great console. But anyway, like MX is the same thing. I don't think we're gonna shift from MX for a while. Uh, I do think that we still always see new things. I mean, people like optical switches, people like Topre, people like all kinds of different stuff, like more vintage inspired stuff too. But those are gonna stay niche, like the way they have always been. I don't really see some of these things taking off to a level where it could easily overtake MX as the standard platform for keycaps and keyboard switches. Yeah, like I feel like we might change the way things work on the inside, but on the outside, it's still gonna be a mix.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would personally like to see this, but God knows if we actually will. But I would love to see a company because I'm pretty sure aren't the formula or like the blueprints lost or maybe I guess disappeared. I would like to see like some kind of company like start recreating like Alp switches so people don't have to like constantly like hunt down like 90s and 80s keyboards. Like to see someone kind of like maybe like bring back like Alps, like how like Topers are still like I don't know if I feel like they're like Topers are still like very relevant, especially people like Norbauer who are like exclusively making high end Toper boards. I think it could be interesting to see a company like recreate their own version of Alp switches to where like we don't have to like well yeah like I said like we don't have to rely on finding vintage keyboards to get these like incredibly sought after switches.
Yeah, so 10P just mentions it in chat here too, but Matthias switches are a thing. They're basically owl switches. Uh, they're akin to like clicky owl switches and stuff. There's variations of that. There's like silence stuff too. And the thing about the switch industry, or at least that scale of manufacturing, is that it's a very hard thing to justify creating molding equipment for something that's not that popular or won't have that much like market potential, right? So I think that's the main issue. It's like it's not that the design is impossible. It's not that people cannot reverse engineer things. It's the fact that you just can't take it from the design phase to the manufacturing phase without a huge capital investment. So that's pretty much the barrier. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have thought about it. A lot of people have certainly prototyped things that are on that level. I mean, like look at the brand new Model F project, right? It's a complete replica of the Model F keyboards by IBM, and they're done pretty much in like they're essentially perfect recreations. And you know that was only possible because the project like had so much traction. Like there's thousands of keyboards order for that, and we're talking about thousands and thousands of switches and keycaps and all these things made for it. So yeah, there was a huge capital investment for that, and that's why it's possible. And same thing with like for example like entry level kits like NK65, Kara, all these things, right? Injection molded boards and stuff. It's only possible because we have this growing community. Maybe if this growing community starts acquiring a very large interest in something like Alps or like a recreation of Alps, I'm sure it's doable. Um, but people are gonna have a hard time overlooking the disadvantages that some of these designs do have. Like a lot of the lack of popularity of Alps, a lot of it has to do with keycap sets, keycap set availability. Same with Topre. Um, another reason is that Alps is susceptible to damage or not damage, sorry, to dust. So if it's left like on its own for long enough, dust gets into the switches and it actually affects the feel of the switch. So like even if you replicate a design that has that kind of flaw, I feel like people are gonna have a hard time saying like, oh yeah, totally. Basically I they would be hard to convince to pledge to support something like basically being like the Kickstarter alpha testers, right? Of a replica like that, right?
Sure.
So I think that's why. I think MX has enough pros and few enough cons, plus the wide support of the market that's why it's like completely eclipses everything else.
That's fair. No, that's a really good point. Like it's and that's something I feel like you notice with like a lot of things. This hobby, like funding is everything. Like just the fact that we have to do almost every
Yeah.
single thing in this hobby group buy, like how the fact that we rarely see anything in stock, and if we do see something in stock, it's almost exclusively switches. It kind of gets like I guess we are seeing like keycap like PBT style keycaps making a bit more of an in stock movement right now. But for the most part, it's pretty much like parts such as like lube and stabilizers, and then switches, and that's not even all switches. It's probably just like half of what's out there. Like outside of like inks, it pretty much if it's not Gatoron, Cherry, you're not seeing it in stock. Or Cam.
Yeah. Well, yeah, keyboards is gonna be hard because CNC is time, right?
Yeah.
In CNC, the equivalent of money is time, and there's not enough time to make that many keyboards. And well, right now there's also a shortage in raw materials or an increase in raw material prices that also is preventing that from happening at least to a large scale. So yeah, yeah, like it's but switches, stabilizers, keycaps, all that stuff is like injection molded, right?
Yeah.
You can like it's made to be mass produced.
That's why we're
So
seeing. That's why like especially come
it
like
for like
Rama and
the
Bauer and
yeah,
everything.
the equipment itself further justifies driving production to its maximum potential because maximum potential is equal to maximum profit. Um, right? Or maximum revenue, I guess, since we don't know essentially what the underpinnings of profit are there. But right, like it's self-driven. It's like a perpetual energy making machine essentially. As long as there's people to buy it, as long as there's people to buy
Sure.
it, there's always gonna be something more there, in those arenas, and especially like in keycaps too. No reason why any vendor will not purchase to keep things in stock if there is an audience to buy an endless number of it, right? Nowadays, look at successful keycap sets are buying approximately the same amount sold during group buy is like being purchased as extras. So like if 1,000 sets sell during group buy, these vendors are buying 1,000 as extras. And the reality is that they don't make money off the group buy almost, if any, really. Like just the logistical cost is probably enough to eclipse that cost. Like the revenue and the profit they make from that. They're making
Sure.
most of the money in the after portion after the keycaps ship. That's the retail price. The retail price is in the extras pricing is MSRP. Group buy pricing is just a benefit to the buyers, really.
You're putting up the money
So
for it to run this. This is your
yeah,
price. You're paying
yeah,
for that wait, but you're
and
waiting.
but yeah, and vendors don't really see much of that money at all because it goes into the production process. You pay logistics, you pay your workers, whatever it is, gone. Money's gone. And that's why group buys are pretty much a difficult model to ditch. Like we won't see people ditching group buy model because it's essentially um it's essentially a fund, a capital fund. Um like it's like an injection process where like you can get capital for things to be made and to happen for vendors who want to bring some of these new ideas to the market. And then number two, right, customers get the benefit from group buys if they don't mind the whole weight thing, right?
And it's
So
definitely especially
it's a
like what you said.
twofold thing. Yeah, yeah, but it's also subject to failure, right? The problem with group buys is that because vendors are not really making that much money out of it, there's not much padding. There's also spending even more money too in order to get that double amount of keycaps, right? Or whatever it is, right? Switches or stabilizers or whatever it is, right? Whatever the in stock allocation is, and that money gets tied up for a few years, right? Or whatever, however long it takes to produce, and then if shit hits the fan, basically for them, they have no other option than to take a loan, basically, to fund any logistical problems that arise in that time in the time frame. So it's pretty rough. So it's pretty rough for both vendors and customers in a way. Like basically, a group buy model is prone to failure, but it's also very successful at the same time. It's a double-edged sword, and I personally don't see this committee ever leaving the group buy model. At least for when it comes to putting new products in the market. And when it comes to putting well-established products in the market, we'll definitely start seeing a lot more in stock. Just we'll start seeing basically, I think a lot of what originative does sometimes when they like don't really announce anything and they just say like, hey guys, we have like a bunch of sets in stock now, is basically what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
The more time goes on, like sooner than later, you'll see like, and let's say like, you know, modern Dolch in stock, without an announcement that it was going to be made in stock. That's what's gonna happen eventually, right? It's just they're just not quite there yet to do it, and also GMK right now can't do it because there's like this big resin shortage that's putting everything um to a hold.
I think a lot of the I feel like we're slowly kind of seeing that too, almost with like how many extras some companies like. Novelty, someone who said it, but GMK Bushido is still in stock. Nautilus 2 was in stock for, I don't know if it might still be, and if it's not, it was for a while. Like, they're buying so many extras because they know eventually, like, people who are in the hobby are going to, like, even if they're new or have been here, if they're looking for a new set, they'll be like, oh, there's a GMK set available that we know is quality. We'll go for that. Um, and especially if it keeps, like, if it keeps growing, like, God knows how big or small this hobby might be in the next like 5 years. It could get to a point where like every like classic set, like 9009, like you said, like 9009, muted, like black and white on black, modern Dolch, like will be like almost always in stock because they're always like the ones people are going for.
Yeah.
I can definitely like I think it'd be hard to ditch the group buy format for sets like more like I don't know like any like normal like group buy, but like I feel like the like legacy sets. I heard Apiary call them legacy sets, which is I feel like a good way of describing them. Like I could see them like constantly being in stock to some sort of capacity.
Yeah. I think the ones that are already established in the community to be kind of like essential colorways, kind of right, or like kind of just like, yeah, established colorways. Yeah, those will just come around every so often. Might not be as often just because right now we do have that whole shortage situation going
Yeah,
on, and the lead time and people being discouraged from it, and like basically projected demand being a black box is definitely going to make things a little bit more complicated. But we'll definitely see things we'll definitely see things like
it would be
cycle around every few years or every so often.
it would be crazy to see GMK because I know they're already saying like they're hoping to get it down within 3 months, like whenever they officially finish their move and all of that. Like if they could actually get there or even like surpass that like in a couple years to where like they have so many machines to where cranking out a group by set takes like no time at all. That'd be unbelievable. Like imagine
I
getting a
think they can
group.
do it. I think they can
I
do
think
it.
it's
I think
possible.
they are already like closer to that than not. It's right now like
It's just a
if
lot
you
of
look at a
things.
lot of group by updates, well, no, right now it's material shortage. There's just not enough material, like raw material, to even make things because they purchase the plastic from a supplier, but the supplier is not giving them enough. Just like keyboards are also kind of getting slower these days because there's a PCB IC shortage, right? Like chip shortage,
Yeah,
which is also affecting GPUs, which is also affecting the car industry, which is also affecting everything in tech that
literally
requires
every.
an integrated circuit,
There's a damn shortage in like almost
and
everything. I feel like.
microcontroller. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, welcome to the 21st century.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like we'll soon see shortage for water probably, but it's all
We'll deal.
implied.
We'll deal with that road when we get there.
Yeah,
Let's not
yeah,
raise the
exactly.
anxiety. Let's not raise anxiety today.
I'm not anxious. I've already accepted the reality to come.
The Echo is just planning for the end of the world. It starts with keyboards and ends with water.
Just live your day one day at a time. I mean, live your life one day at a time, and you'll be fine. I think you'll be
Anxious
happy.
Diego confirmed. He just confirmed he's not anxious. It's more accepted Diego.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all going to hell. It's all going to hell in cold soba noodles and Korean barbecue. It's a shortage. That's what I. That's what I
He gonna
write.
invest. He gonna invest in a bunker, says young homie. No, I just invest in this large keyboard case. It's basically a Faraday cage. This big metal hunk.
Forget
It's a keyboard from the outside, but yeah, it could be like a bunker.
you have to build exclusively like the novel keys, like the big switches, like the giant ones.
That would be fun.
Oh my god. We did end up going on a almost entirety of this tangent on keyboards, even though I said that we don't really talk. But I feel like you're like people like you are kind of like different to get on here and talk about keyboards because you have so much like knowledge in like everything from the front to the back end and the history. Like it's almost hard like not to I guess like get into that side of things with like people you on here because like I've learned so much. We've talked a few times now and I'm still like I feel like things are still like getting cracked for me. Like Stealios is an insane concept that I had no idea about.
I mean, yeah. What are we supposed to even be talking about if it's let's change the topic
Let's
for curiosity's sake. What were we supposed to talk about today?
Diego. Yeah, I know you're a student. What kind of student?
Oh, I see. I do biomedical engineering. I do research. I'm a doctorate student. So yeah, I'm a PhD student.
Are you gonna change into Doctor Lightning eventually, or like what's the deal here?
Oh.
I feel like you. It's like you have Doctor Huru and then Doctor Lightning.
Uh,
We have
I'm good.
PhD Keeb
Um,
streamers.
I'm I'm good. I'm good. I'm okay.
But not to sound.
I'm
I
okay.
this might be a stupid question. Like what exactly what's like what is the goal with this PhD exactly?
Uh, well, I mean, I do research. To be specific, I guess I do research in imaging. A lot of my research has to do with digital image processing of breast cancer images.
Oh,
So the technology is called OCT, but basically it's an imaging modality that's used for disease progression tracking and diagnosis. Help in like in medicine. And a lot of my work is to develop algorithms for image processing, um, and also to improve the hardware that goes in tandem with the algorithm to process those images. And so yeah, a lot of my work has to like if I had to like put like keywords to my research, like if you had to like search something on Google, it would be like deep neural networks, um, or like deep learning, convolutional neural networks, image processing, breast cancer, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that's kind of the research I do. It's partly computational, partly hardware related research on medical imaging.
would it always be research? Like would that pretty much always be? I guess like your career with this would it always just be like essentially doing research and trying to like progress that field in any way?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't say like I'm currently certain that I would stay like in academia. I'm actually more reluctant than not to stay like in staying in academia. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I've always had an interest in science and scientific research. And I've like always been involved in some form of like R&D sort of industry. Like before I came to school, I was working as a researcher as well, like as a staff scientist. And so yeah, I think that's sort of like the field I would probably be in for a career. That said, I have had always an interest in tech. So like, being in keyboards, for example, as a hobby is definitely enriching for me because these are also interests that I had when I was growing up slash like when I was attending school, like an undergrad, but that I didn't necessarily choose for a career.
I'm sorry to laugh. R&D's nuts actually made me LOL.
Yes, I research and develop different kinds of nuts.
big macadamia and academia guy.
Yes, that's exactly right. Almonds and
Sorry.
macadamias.
Oh my goodness. Oh, it is just like funny.
Well, actually, it's the antithesis of nuts, but it's okay. Sorry, I'm just being a nerd now.
No. It flies. I'll allow it. I think it's almost necessary, if anything. Um, would you plan on like how many more years of school do you have with this?
Right now, I think mm, It varies. Depends on my project. My project's not set in stone. So I'm like, I had a brief pause in school. So like in the past year and a half. Um, so I would suspect I'll probably be in school for at least the next 3 years.
Would you be in New York for all 3 of those years?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. I don't think I have the ability to work remotely all that time.
I wasn't sure if it was like you would like maybe like you need like a finish a year here and then you transfer schools or anything. Like I guess like in that
Oh no,
situation.
no, no. No, I'm not in like any kind of special program or anything like that.
Is it NYU or is it if you want to if you can disclose like where you go? I don't know if that's a weird thing for
I
you.
would rather not disclose
Yeah,
any
that's
more
fine.
personal information. Yeah.
No, that's fine. Do you think you'd stay in New York? Like I guess like do you think like New York's like your final
As like
destination?
for living,
Yeah.
I mean, I love New York City.
Hmm.
I love how like hustling and bustling it is out here. So much to do, so much to see. Great food and all that. Just like in general, like a great place to be in your 20s. Like great place to meet new people, to kind of experience a lot of new things, and to sort of like yeah, like people say like yeah, New York City kind of feels like the center of the world, and it kind of is true in the sense that, like there's just a lot of activity happening all the time. So in that sense, I love New York. I'm not sure if in the long term I could see myself here, as in like I definitely think that if I like had family, I would see it being harder settling here, unless, let's say, like if I had a partner who wanted to settle in New York City, right? That
Sure.
would be a very different story. But I would like that would have a very strong influence on how I decide things. But I think I'm personally more of a bit of a free soul in respect to that. I think I've lived in smaller cities. I've lived in small towns. Um, I've lived like in much more remote locations as well, and so I kind of see the pros and cons of all these things. So I could see myself living in a suburban area too. So I think it just would depend on what my life circumstances are like right at the point where I need to make those decisions.
Ooh. Snoop Dogg's asking, are you currently reading anything and plans on a postdoc?
Yeah, I'm reading this book over here. It's called "Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien Too"
I like the
by
cover.
Johnny Sun. Um, so I'm reading this. It's kind of it's kind of a cute little book. Has like cartoons. I got this. I actually got this as a gift a while back, but I never had the chance to read it. But basically, it's kind of it kind of evokes a bit of like that like Little Prince sort of vibe.
Sure.
Kind of like like a story that's like sci-fi fantasy, like it's fiction, but that kind of inspires a bit of like that kind of more existential and more like philosophical meaning to it. Pretty cute book.
I
So
like
I'm
that.
reading this. And as for a postdoc, I'm currently not planning on it. I'm currently unsure if that's something that is in the books. Well, I would say it's far in the future, that it's not within my concerns at the moment.
I love the ugly cute art style. That's ugly
I,
cute.
yeah, I think ugly cute definitely sounds about right.
He looks like a more simplified version. What is it? Roger from American Dad.
Oh, I see. Yeah, this is like the physicist version of American Dad. I don't know. It's pretty cute though.
No,
Pretty
I
cute.
like. I'll look into that. I like books like that. Love the blue. We'll keep an eye on that set. I see what you did there. I actually am finished. I've been big on watching anime or like a show on the subway to and from work, but I've been getting pretty burnt out just like watching a show every day like that. I don't know. Like it's just like I think I'm just getting like sick of like viewing something. So I started reading like finally on the subway. And I'm actually 15 pages from finishing a book that I have had for like 5 years and have started probably like 10 times. Like read the first like 30 pages and then forgot about it.
Hmm.
Called the Greatest Footballer You Never Saw. and I'm like, I'm
Mm.
on like the last 15. I'm like, holy shit, I'm actually gonna finish this book. Like it's been sitting,
Oh,
it
nice.
has been like living perpetually on my side table, next to my bed,
Yeah.
like between home and living in New York since like 2016. I'm not kidding, like for so long, and I'm like now
Hmm.
finally actually like finishing the book.
I feel that. I mean, I feel like I also have a lot of books that I have. Well, actually, no, well, no, I don't buy as many books anymore or like rent a lot of books because I used to just go to like a library and just check out books to read.
Sure.
I have a Kindle too, which I read from. So like yeah, sometimes I'll just like download stuff to my Kindle, or like I have like Amazon Books stuff that I can get. So I get stuff to my Kindle like that. But I guess I don't read for leisure as much as I used to. I like fantasy. I like sci-fi. I also like nonfiction stuff though. Um, so I kind of just read pretty openly. I don't have like a like I would say that I've read a lot, but I would say like I've that a lot portion is mostly in the classics. Like I've read all like the classic stuff, like all the like popular novels and all that
Sure.
stuff. Like I've read that through and through many times and all that. I used to enjoy reading philosophy a lot, so I would read a lot of that. Like for example, like I love Kierkegaard. Um, that's like one example. But like yeah, like I do like reading, but I don't read as much anymore since I'll say I don't read as much since like maybe like 8 years ago. Like I think the past like 8 years I haven't read as much as I would like to. So I just casually read. I think these days like most of my source of entertainment is I watch anime a lot. I I like watch like I like listen to podcasts every so often, like randomly. Um, I just like pick random stuff on like Spotify. Um, and then I read like I read like books like that, or like sometimes like light novels. Um, and that's about it, really. That's most of
Yeah.
my entertainment, like outside of work. I would say. I think that already like depletes my day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
It's kind of,
so
I feel
yeah.
like it's like hard to find that balance between like entertain. I think it's just like
Oh yes,
allocating.
and I play a lot of Genshin Impact these
Dude,
days.
I could not play. I have had it downloaded since like it first came out, and I can't bring myself to play it because I know I'm going to get addicted. I just do not have enough hours in the day. Like I have too much shit to where like if I like bring in a new addicting game, I'm screwed. Like it is
I don't
game
have too many
over.
things like that. Yeah, like like keyboards are my big outlet as far as like that big hobby that's relatively time consuming and all that. And outside of that, I used to like pre-COVID, I guess. I used to play music. But since COVID, I have basically haven't done much of that. I kind of was like on a more like better groove, sort of like to like exercise and like do music and like other stuff like pre-COVID. I think COVID definitely broke a lot of that. Um, so I think at some point I do hope to sort of like step back into like a physical like a more physical like tangible sort of hobby that's like
Sure.
outside like like more like outdoors or even just like in a different setting. um but yeah, until then I think I would say like keyboards right now have been my biggest time consumption
I can definitely agree.
method.
Definitely probably the
Along
same on
with
my end here.
like I mean, when I'm not doing keyboards, let's say, and like I'm watching like anime, let's say, or like TV, like I might be looping switches at the same time. So it's kind of all the same. It's all this blob of time where I'm spending doing these things in front of the screen. Um, so all in all, it's fine.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
but
That's
yeah, I
good.
like going out for like a walk, that kind of
I
stuff,
wanna I
or
wanna
a
like
run.
I want to
Yeah,
try to find it because I know there are places in New York. I don't know. I do miss the outdoor. I guess the outdoors like a little like it's like one thing I really miss of home and like being home for 6 months during COVID. It was like nice like being close to nature. Like we had like nature trails and like there was like stuff to do like
yeah.
outdoors. Where here it's kind of like there's like four trees on the block. Like there's
Hmm.
just not like that's your nature walk for the day. Like looking at the four trees. Um, but I guess my last question. I guess now realize I actually haven't asked this in the last couple podcasts, so I need to get back on asking this. But the one question I like to ask on every guest is, do you have any? I'm a big fan of pipe dreams. Do you have any like anything of like that nature, like something like I feel like I like to think like everyone might have one, like some kind of like overwhelming dream or like goal they like have set for themselves that like you would like to achieve at some point in your life.
I mean, a pipe dream, huh? I mean, like I have like materialistic pipe dreams for sure. Like some of them, like I've always dreamt of having a large house where I have like like those like tall ceiling library kind of spaces with the spiral stairs and multiple shelf levels. Like
The
you have to
goods.
like climb ladders to grab books and stuff. I've always dreamt of a fantastic library like that. I like books. I like shelves. I like to display stuff. I I obviously live in the antithesis of that, which is a New York City apartment, where all my keyboards are stored in this. A lot of my keyboards are stored in this uh 4x2 shelf, and a lot of my clothes are stored in this dresser and this 4x2 shelf, cubby shelf over here. And like stuff goes under my bed and that kind of stuff. I don't get to display anything really. My only real display is my own desk. So one day I hope to bring all that out into the open where I can actually put things like in display or like have like a basically like that version of my man cave, like that
Sure.
space where I can just put everything out and like I can pick it up anytime I want and I don't have to be opening cases and boxes every time for or like looking stuff for in the closet.
I
So
was.
one day that's a pipe dream. I guess another pipe dream or like like stuff like on my bucket list. I do want to try like some extreme sports. I definitely want to go skydiving sometime.
Ooh.
Um, that kind of stuff. Like skydiving or like those gliders. Like I wish I could try one of those things, like those like crazy gliders that they like run and jump off from like a
Hang
freaking
glider.
like
Is the hang gliders?
yeah, like a 8,000 foot like mountain cliff whatever.
I want to
I'm
see you
like,
in the
oh
squirrel
my god.
suits. I want to see you in the squirrel
Uh,
suits.
that would be fun. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I can't say I'm not afraid of it because I'm sure I will be terrified. Um, but at the same time, I feel like I would love the adrenaline of it. So I would love to try something like that.
um,
I've tried zip lining. Yes, zip lining is great. It's super fun too. Yeah.
those are good pipe dreams
I
though. Like those are good. Like like it's
yeah, and
okay
I
to
have places I want to visit. Like I have
sure.
places I want to visit. Yeah. Like in the
Um,
world, I want to travel a lot. I love traveling, especially by myself. But if there's like travel partners, that are tolerable for a long enough time, I
wait,
think
wait.
that'd
I'll
be
back out now.
that's
Never mind.
that's the hardest part. Traveling for a few days, no big deal. Traveling for like 2 weeks, okay. Need to choose the right people around you. Especially when it comes to accommodations and like what to do. Like I'm not like the biggest like itinerary person. So it's like if you get mad that we didn't stick to your 12 p.m. brunch or yada yada, like it's not my problem. That kind of stuff. Um, so yeah, but I do want to travel to like specific countries, specific places, because I really didn't get to do that when I was younger, and certainly not like even in my 20s. I didn't get to do that much because I actually started working literally the day after my graduation. So I really haven't had much of a opportunity for long-term vacations. Um, so yeah.
I guess the last my final question because I didn't mean to ask this in the beginning and I forgot till now. So are you just like a big Bowie fan? Is that like where all this came from?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, you have the one. I'm pretty sure it's a commission. It's the Al Bauman the with the Bowie lightning. I
Yeah.
it's a one of one, isn't it?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That is like my most sought after. Like your one of one is the one like the one out of like all the Al like that's the one I
It's
want the
great.
most.
It's
Uh,
great, isn't it?
is that where
Yeah,
you got
yeah.
lightning? Is that where you got like lightning keyboards from?
So not like no, 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 no. So it's very funny how that all kind of came in a circle. So like when so my people have actually asked me like so my original username on Reddit, Distorty, Geek Hack is Lightning XI, right? It's actually because I used to be a sprinter back in the day. And Lightning XI is referring to Lightning was basically like my nickname that my coach kind of gave me in Spanish. And then it was like more it was more like little lightning, like rayito. And then the 11 part comes in from I did sub 11-second 100-meter dash like when I was like in middle school. So that was like kind of like where it came from. And so like yeah, that was like where my username came from. And then sort of like like I've had that username for quite a long time. I think my Reddit account is maybe like 8 or 9 years old now. um and like then later on, I'm a big Bowie fan for sure. Like I'm a big fan of classic rock in general.
Sure.
um and yeah, like David Bowie of course included. um and like there have been multiple kind of Bowie homage colorways and stuff, and I really love them, of course. And there are like a few caps that I've acquired over time too that have had like David Bowie featured as a colorway. And
Your wonderful,
and
your
there was
wonderful avatar
yeah,
right up
and
there.
the avatar actually came about because there was a there's a friend I met through in the community, like in this like private server, just like a small group of friends really, where he loved to draw like Pepe the Frog sort of memes. So I'm
I
like,
was like kind of hoping you were gonna send me
yeah,
your Pepe the Frog like David Bowie Lightning
yeah,
line for
yeah.
your character,
Some
but I was never gonna ask.
some rather like degenerate characters out there too. But he likes drawing, right? He's actually like it's funny, like he's actually like a lawyer and he just likes drawing. But then one day he was like, "I'm bored. Tell me something to draw for like y'all, like you guys like in this small group, like it was a group of like 6-7 people." And people were like, like we just kind of threw themes at him, and he was like, "Oh, lightning." And I was like, "Yeah, David Bowie, lightning, all that stuff. I like that stuff." And he's like, "Okay, I'll draw something up." And he drew that avatar, and I was like, "Dude, I love it." And I set it as my avatar back then. This was like in 2018 or something, and it's basically stayed since then. So
It's
I've
good.
had that for a while. Yeah. So that's like my Discord avatar, right? But like the whole like lightning thing is really just from my original Reddit username, like my
Were
Reddit
you
slash Geekhack username.
were you Lightning
And
XI
then
on Twitch for a little bit there?
no, I was actually my original Twitch username was Meowgo11.
Okay, never mind. I don't know why. I feel like I
Yeah.
like remember
That which
seeing
is
you
what
on Twitch as Lightning XI.
which is why a lot of my which is why all my emotes have the prefix Meowgo, because that was my original prefix on my emotes, because when I was
I've
an
never.
affiliate it was still Meowgo11.
Wait, that's
um
funny.
yeah, Meowgo isn't like Diego Meowgo. I like cats too, so yeah. It was like a yeah. Yeah, don't need to know too much about it, but yeah, that's kind of
You're
like how it
good.
came about. Yeah, it was an X. Anyway, she came up with it. And then yeah, so like there was that. And that nickname was around until maybe like I forget actually when I decided to rebrand to Lightning Keyboards. I already forgot. Maybe it was 2 years ago. Yeah, I think it was about 2 years ago. And then I decided to like rebrand to just be more consistent with the Lightning prefix. And so I just said Lightning Keyboards, and then that's why my username changed. And then I decided to commission like a logo, which funnily enough people have told me that is very similar to whatever has the F1 drivers guy's name. I forget his name.
Lewis Hamilton.
uh uh
I'm trying to think of like Leclerc.
Lando Norris.
Oh,
Apparently my logo is similar to Lando Norris's F1 logo.
I just finished season one yesterday of the F1 series, so I'm like slowly like learning these people.
I don't know. I don't know much. I don't know much F1 beyond Michael Schumacher.
The series is
So
good, dude. You should watch
so
this. I'm in
and
season.
uh,
It's addicting.
yeah, I honestly don't know too much about Formula One, but it's very funny. It's very fun to watch nonetheless. I love cars. Uh, I honestly still think the best perk of living in New York City is to not own a car. So
Yeah.
expensive, so time consuming. I hate commuting in a car to and from work. Like I love driving a car, just outside of work.
That's fair.
But I love that I don't have to drive. I love that I don't have to worry about parking
Hmm.
and bad drivers out there. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think I lost my interest in cars because I stopped driving. But yeah,
That's fair.
it is what
Is
it is.
JD is your tiger, right?
Yes, this is JD.
I do think
JD is
I think Edward would be
JD is
friends.
short. JD, who's Edward?
Edward's my cat. He's not in the room right now. He's outside.
Oh,
But
you have an actual cat. Oh,
I
I'm
do.
jealous.
I
I don't
do.
have a real cat, unfortunately.
I saw Shogun
I
has asked a
have
few times.
I have JD, who is a real tiger, but it's not he's not he does not consider himself a real cat, just a real tiger.
Just a real
Yes.
tiger.
Yes.
Have you guys always had JD, or is he a
No, so JD came about late last year, in like around Thanksgiving time, actually. Around Thanksgiving time last year, we were just um I was just streaming, and someone basically found an Amazon listing of basically JD, um, of this big tiger plush, and people in my chat were like, "We should get you that tiger," but it was actually more so because if you go to the listing of this tiger, let me pull it up actually. If you go to the Amazon listing of this tiger, there are these. I don't think these are stock photos, but but the kids who are modeling with the tiger look absolutely miserable in the photos, and they're like, Diego, we need to get you this because it's hilarious. Um, so
Oh
there is a
no.
link.
Oh
Well,
no.
and it's funny actually. I recently also discovered that some
This is
one
an
of the kid
80.
models
This is
disappeared from the list of
this is
photos, which is just truly atrocious.
this is an $80
Anyway,
tiger.
so chat funded this for me because I was like, I'm not gonna buy that. Hell no.
They
Um, and yeah, so it happened.
they have a
Um,
5 foot tall. You can get a combo with a giraffe that's 5 feet tall. Wait, can we go? If you ever do another order on these, like we'll do like a little New York group buy. I'll split the price if I can get the giraffe.
I think you can just use your Amazon Prime. Okay, I think it's okay. Um, yeah. So that's kind of how it happened. Yeah. So that was like late last year. Actually, let me see if I can find the photos of this of the JD
Mighty mighty
replicated
tigers.
JD photos, because they're actually quite funny. Um, I'm
Oh,
sure I have them
that
here.
that is amazing. That's very funny. I feel like as long as I've known your streams, I've known the tiger. You could have told me it's been there for your entire life, and I would have believed you.
No, it hasn't been that long. It's been it's been around, but it's only actually been like what, 9 months now, 10 months.
My
Yeah.
thoughts on
So,
CRP Tulip. I'm excited. I'm waiting for my
oh,
my round 4 to come in.
oh,
I think it
nice.
was Chomchi gave me a big brain move. I was about to get regular English alphas. I got Greek. I was getting Greek Tulip. I was gonna get regular
Mhm.
Tulip, and then I got Cyrillic. And he's like, don't get. He's like, don't unless you plan on putting it on 2 boards. Don't get Tulip. He's like, you're set on getting Greek sub legends, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, congrats. Take the Tulip sub legends and put them on your regular set of legends, and now you have Tulip minus like 2 keys, and I'm like, it's kind of big brain. Like it's like the only difference I think is like 2 keys maybe.
Yes. Okay, I found the pictures. I'll post some of these in chat.
How about 2 lips on these nuts? Are you in that one? This
That sounds
is
kind of hot.
this is this is amazing. This is so wholesome. We love this. I'll I'm gonna get a picture of me and Edward like that, and we can just put them side by side. He's an orange cat.
So that's where it all that's when it all happened.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. That's amazing. Don't you love a bit that just refuses, like it just sticks around?
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway, yeah. So that's JD's origin story. I should make a Marvel movie about it.
they
But
could they could always use more stories. Ah,
I wouldn't mind being the second Asian American superhero in a Marvel movie. Speaking of which, have any of y'all watched Shang-Chi yet? Because I haven't, and I'm so sad that I haven't yet, but I really want to.
I had kimchi. I did desoldering stream with Kimchi was on yesterday with me, and we were literally like the first half hour was spoiler talk of Shang-Chi. We were
Oh,
just talk. Well, we like made it clear like we're talking spoilers, but like we have things to discuss. He,
oh, I want to watch it so
we'll,
badly.
we'll do a third desol. We'll do a second desolder stream and get you added into it. It was good. I liked it. He wasn't as fond of it. He had some choice words to say about it. It was.
Mhm.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun. Um,
Oh,
you'll have
tell
to let me know
Manoli
what you think
JD's
though.
real name. Yeah. I'll definitely let you know. I don't tend to have very strong opinion. Like, I'm not a very opinionated person when it comes to films, but because I watch so many things that I tend to
Sure.
not form super strong opinions about very specific stuff, just because it's like feels
It
like
has to be. I feel like
feels
I'm the
like
same way. I have to really love
feels
it
like
if
too
I'm
much
gonna talk
energy.
about it.
Yeah. Like it's like a lot of energy. I only have a limited amount of bandwidth each day. Getting out of bed already takes like 70% of that. I need to ration the other 30.
just get the second I step out of bed at 7 a.m. to go to work, I'm just already done with the day. I'm just like, this is already too much.
Real talk though, like that was a big struggle for me for like maybe like in the last like 3 years, like getting out of bed was this like big challenge for me. Anyway, but that said, this is JD's real name is Jose Diego Luis Escobar Martinez de Guanajuato. It was a name proposed by Mr. Chillgam, who's maybe he's in chat right now. But it was actually a tiger name suggestion contest on my Discord server. There were maybe like 12 suggestions, and that was the best of the 12. So that's why that's what JD's real name is.
that is that is really funny. That is it
Yeah.
reminds. Have you seen? I there's no way I'm not the first one to bring it up. But have you seen Sweet Life of Zach and Cody?
Yeah,
Like
of
the
course.
doorman, it's like Esteban, Julio, Ricardo. I don't remember the rest.
Yeah,
Latoya
yeah.
Ramirez. It's just it
Yeah.
just keeps
So
going.
you get the idea. Yeah, and of
I get the
course, like
bit.
the whole idea fits my background, and of course my name is Diego. Blah blah blah.
It
So
works. It works.
yeah,
Uh, but Diego,
yeah,
thank
that
you
was
for
the
letting me.
inspo. Yeah.
Thank you for one. Informing us on the history and also letting me chat your ear off. I'm always happy when it goes over a little, even though like some people might not be. But it's like I guess it means the conversation's flowing well.
Well, I mean,
Um,
people will stick around if they want to, right? So
yeah, but no, seriously, thank you so much for coming on, brother. This was fun. This is
yeah,
very informative. Like this is why I like doing this because like I honestly do this more so I can just learn from everyone else.
oh
But no,
no, man, no worries.
this was real.
It's a
This was really
pleasure.
fun. I'll definitely have to have you
Yeah.
on again in the future if you'd like. We'll
Yeah,
have
sure.
to
Just I guess just let me know. Let me know when the reprise episode is.
no, for sure. I'll have to we'll have to go get some soba, some Korean food. Something maybe something I haven't had yet. One or the other.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot in the city that we could have. I feel like
Gente's apparently officially moving here now, so
Oh, really?
oh, wait,
When?
tweet he said this summer, which I'm assuming he means next summer. He's tweeted about it today. He's like moving to New York this summer, and I'm like I'm assuming he means next summer.
Well, this summer ends on September 21st,
He
basically.
just
So
shows up. He just shows up in a
he,
week.
he has 2 weeks to move.
He's 2 weeks or
The big
he's a liar.
the big tay of gin.
Who has bigger calves, me or Lightning?
Oh, I think probably you. I think you're a thicker.
I appreciate it. I don't want to sit there and just say you're right, but I think you're right there. Jinte, yes, Jinte boy is moving to New York from what it sounds like.
Jinte is a
Um,
good guy.
we
Nice
like
dude.
Jinte. It is funny seeing him in person, like how tall he is. That
He's a
was.
giant.
He's so
Holy
tall.
crap. He's huge.
Like you're as tall as me. You might have like you're a little taller than me, I think. Or are we like the same
Am
height?
I?
What are
I
you?
mean, we're like
I'm
close
five
to five
five.
seven, right?
I'm
Oh,
five
okay,
five. So you might
okay.
have like an inch or two on me. But
Yeah, I'm at the tip end of 5'6" to all like to low
he
5'7", so yeah.
when I saw Jinte, he was in. I met him in his store. And he was sitting down trying on shoes, and he stood up, and I'm like, God, I knew you were tall, but you weren't
Yeah,
tall.
yeah. Yeah, no, he's super tall. Um, it's like, is the
Oh,
air different up there?
this is the air. Seattle. They got the good air in Seattle.
Yeah.
They have the
Oh,
good
yeah,
air.
yeah. It's all that pollution that made me shrink. That's all
It's
that
the
city
rain.
pollution.
It's all the rain. It helps him grow. He's just properly
Oh
watered.
my god. Oh, yes, extra photosynthesis. That's great.
Oh, oh my! But like I said, though, thank you again,
How
Diego. I really
tall
do
is Jinte?
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
he's like
He's
six
six
two
two
or
at
something like
least.
that.
He's at
Yeah,
least 6'2". Like
at
I have some
least.
pretty
Yeah,
tall friends, and he might be tall. Some of
yeah,
my taller ones.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, but yeah, thank you so much, though, brother. I appreciate it. Taking time out of your night feels good.
Oh no, no worries. It was fun.
Yeah, we'll meet. We'll do this. We'll do this again soon. We'll meet up soon. Thank y'all for being here. Are you lightning keyboards on everything, or is it just
I can plug a few things.
no?
I
Please
can
plug away.
well, I just need well, I'll just plug my Twitch. That's really the only one, and my Instagram is also Lightning
Nah,
Keyboards.
follow his YouTube. I like your YouTube sound tests a lot.
Okay, fine. If that's the case, just check out the website. The links are all up there.
And there you go.
LightningKeywords.com, and you can check all the links on the top right. To all
When
my
is the
socials.
when are the next times you're planning on Switch? Or when do you usually stream?
I don't have a fixed schedule, but people know that I often stream on pretty much evenings, Eastern time. So you'll often see me online like anywhere between 6 and 12 at night.
I
So and I don't have a fixed schedule, so I can't guarantee like a specific time. That it just goes depending on what my work is looking like at the time.
Do you know when you'll be streaming next? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I should be streaming next sometime this week. I'm just
Alright.
waiting for some stuff to come in.
I'm sure most of you do, but if you don't, make sure you follow Diego on Twitch, join his Discord, go to his website, follow all the links, and check him out next time he's streaming. I will be streaming tomorrow. Tomorrow at 8 p.m. We're gonna actually finish the Ramakara build after last week's debacle. Yeah, thank you again, Diego. I appreciate it, guys. Make sure you follow him. We're gonna go. We're gonna go read bow boards. We're gonna. I don't see.
Alright.
I don't see bow on too often. So when I do, I get excited. Especially, at least specifically when I'm streaming. But yeah, thank you all so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. Keep doing your push up. You doing a lot of push ups?
Oh yeah. They're referring to some a little incident we had on YouTube on my channel. Like there was this guy who was commenting about me not talking about the Equinox XL, and he was like, "Keep doing your push-ups and keep talking about the Keycrons," and I was like,
I saw.
okay.
Did you tweet about this or like post?
Yeah, yeah.
I saw this.
I recently
saw
tweeted
this.
about it.
I
Yeah,
saw
and
this.
it's become a copy pasta now. So
well, I hope he leaves you alone at the very least.
I'm sure they're done with me. I'm sure they have unsubscribed and all that stuff.
They're just sick of it.
Yeah, it's okay.
But everybody, go show Balvord some love. Diego, thank you again. Go make sure you follow him on everything if you haven't already. And as always, my friends.
All right.
Cheers. I will see you all tomorrow. Good night, guys. Go show Bal some love.
Good night.